and now we've been an amici in a number of cases, including U.S. Supreme Court cases. For example, the Mazars case, which was handed down this year, where we have expressed our opinions about the law and about how oversight actually works and why it's so important that that Congress be able to enforce its subpoenas. So that's enough about us. Maybe the next slide. So in addition to the internship program, we have an externship program, which I'm not going to talk about in a lot of ways, but I'm just going to say this is sort of an example. These are the items, these are the areas where students can get involved with 11 Center. So there's an externship program, which is a program involving allowing students to actually spend a whole semester in Washington working working on an investigative committee. The internship we're here to talk about, the coffee hour is actually going on right now over down at the center. We do frequent career panels, trying to give you an idea of what the career paths are for lawyers in public policy and politics and related fields. We have research assistant opportunities. So we have several research assistants right now who work with us. Bahar is a research assistant with the Levin Center. He's done some excellent work for us. Students can get involved with a civic education experiential learning program called Youth in Government, where we provide an oversight experience. And law students can serve as witnesses, can be full counsel to the students who are role playing an oversight investigation in a model legislature. So this takes place in Michigan. It takes place at the state capitol a couple times a year, and law students have been part of that program. And they've had a lot of fun doing it. We do a lot of stuff with the Law Review, Wayne Law Review, and the other journals here at the law school, putting on symposia that deal with oversight. And there's a student group mailing list that you can join. How do you join that? Okay,
come to the coffee hour.
That's about how you can engage as a law student here. So now the internship. So who's going to talk about the internship?
Should we see if we can now hear Linda?
Yeah. So I want to introduce Linda Gustaitis. Linda, can you say hello? Can we see if you can?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. So we might.
Hey. Okay. So I'm going to turn off my phone then.
Yes.
All right. And Kay, maybe you can join us then on the video as well.
Yeah. Okay. So let me introduce Linda Gustaitis. Linda is the senior advisor to the Levin Center and was a co-founder of the Levin Center, along with Senator Levin and her colleague Elise Bean and a few other people. But Linda played a central role in establishing the Levin Center back in 2015. Prior to that, she had a lengthy career in the U.S. Senate, working for Senator Levin, was his chief counsel and staff director of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, was his chief of staff at one point. And she does tremendous work with us and takes a lead role in coordinating the internship program. So I'm going to turn things over to Linda to talk about sort of the specifics of the internship program. Okay.
Thank you, Jim. It's really nice to see such a nice turnout of interest in the internships. What Jim didn't mention, I don't think, is that I'm also a graduate of Wayne Law School and ended up actually working for Senator Levin through an internship I had with the Central Business District Association in Detroit when I was at law school. So my internship there blossomed into my career in the U.S. Senate with Senator Levin. So internships can lead to wonderful experiences and maybe life-changing events. So we have since 2015, 2016, we've been offering internships to anywhere from 2 to 4. One year we had 6, but that's a little many. Wayne Law students to come to Washington, D.C. for 10 to 12 weeks and work in a congressional office in either the House or the Senate. The offices that we pick are committee offices or subcommittee offices that do oversight work. So since our specialty and what we promote is fact-based bipartisan oversight, Our placements are with congressional committees that do oversight. As the note shows you here, we also offer a $6,000 stipend for these internships to defray the costs of the travel and your living expenses. And so the subject of the jurisdiction of the committees varies. It can be everything from Senator Peters, who has Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, which is basically jurisdiction over the entire government. That's the governmental affairs part of it, to the Finance Committee, to the Ways and Means Committee, or the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House. We try to match the student's interest with the committee jurisdiction. It's not always able, we're not always able to do that because of the mix and the placements that we have for a given summer. But we try to be successful in that and sensitive to that. And the committees like that. The committees like to have interns who care about the subjects on which they're working. So that's important. You are responsible for getting your own housing, but there are people like Kay, who's here, who has gone through that. And so your fellow students who've been here before are good people to talk to about how they went about and got housing. But we think you're grown-ups and adults, and you can figure that out. The internship is 10 to 12 weeks. I encourage people to stay as long as they can, because the longer you stay with the committee, the more you learn and the more responsibility they give to you. You're kind of thrown in right at the beginning because you're law students. They don't treat you as college interns. You're not just, you don't do correspondence and some of the routine things that college interns do. As a law student, they want you to, especially in terms of oversight and investigations, you do some very heavy lifting. As a matter of fact, we've had reports where our interns were critical to some of the successes of the oversight work and the investigations that these committees were doing. So it's very challenging work. The hours can be long. The important thing about these internships in terms of what you can bring to it are, one, your attitude, which is that you will do what they want you to do when they want you to do it. Now, of course, within the parameters of morality and the right thing to do. But you work hard, you can work long hours, but trust me that for those 10 to 12 weeks, that's the best thing you can do, because that's the best experience. That's how you're going to get the most experience out of it. The other thing is, it's really important to treat this as it is, as a professional experience, and to be very strong on your oral and your written skills. Now, that's true for all interns. I mean, for all lawyers. That's an important ingredient for being a successful attorney. But it's particularly important when you're starting out to really strive to know how to express yourself in a professional manner orally, and especially to do it in writing. The kinds of writing that are required of these internships are to present the results of your research and to do it in a succinct way. Some of your memos will go to a senator or to a representative, and they want it like this. They want the facts, the important facts, and they want it in as clear a prose as possible, and as an easily digestible form as possible. So it's a good experience for you to learn how to do that. And in most cases, the committees will work with you to help you improve those skills. The other advantage to these internships is that you get to see Washington, D.C., and there's no other place quite like it in the world. You'll see how the Hill works. You'll see how Congress works. You'll be next to the Supreme Court. We urge our interns to take full advantage of their time in DC. We have fabulous museums. You pick up the atmosphere of the city. So that's another real advantage of these internships. And I think with that, I'm going to answer anybody's questions, but in terms of the agenda, maybe it's time to turn it over to Kay to talk about what it was like for her. She was an intern just this past summer.
And I think, Bahar, you're going to speak after Ken.
Yeah.
Oh, is Bahar there?
Bahar's here.
in
Oh,
person.
I didn't see either. Okay, either one. I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were there, Bahar.
Start out with Kay and then Bahar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, okay, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I am going to give my email to everyone. So if you guys want to reach out, you're more than welcome to. My experience last year, I can echo everything Linda said. So I was with Senator Peters. I worked with Homeland Security and Government Affairs, but mainly focused on Homeland Security. It was an incredible experience. Echoing everything Linda said, it's the attitude you come in with. You are expected to come in and hit the floor running. You have to have an attitude of, I'm going to do whatever you put me to do, and you'll actually get that experience. So there are some things that I worked on, I never thought I would be interested in, and I gained experience and interest after I worked on it. Other fields that some of the attorneys pulled me in like, hey, are you interested in 1, 2, 3? And I wasn't interested, but I was open to learning, and I became interested. So you have to come in with an open mind and a willingness to learn. It's not, there's a few internships that I've had, and it was more, let me type something up, and they treat you like you're an undergrad. You will be treated like a law clerk, and you'll be treated like a law student. You are not only a representation of a school, you're representing yourself, and that representation will carry on throughout your entire legal career. So be extremely professional, and this is an extremely important opportunity that will open a lot of doors for many other great opportunities.
Okay, now we're going to hear from Bahar. Bahar, do you want to remind everybody about your experience?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna,
You would stand up and hear you.
yeah. So I was also working for the Homeland Security committee, but I was in the subcommittee for emerging threats and spending oversight under Senator Maggie Hassan, who's a New Hampshire senator. So yeah, just echoing everything Kay and Linda said, it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity, especially when you're in law school. They really do treat you like you're part of the committee. And I think that opportunity to see how the government works from like an inside view, you're going to be able to go to meetings with senators and see them up close, face to face. You're going to be walking around the hallways. There's going to be important people there. You're going to be able to talk to them and learn from them. And I think that was the best part, just that in-person experience. And if you guys do get the opportunity, yeah, just echoing what Kay said, take it very seriously, because it can open a lot of doors. So yeah, and I will give you all my phone number, email, and stuff. You can always reach out to me.
Great. So I think we're next going to talk about the application process.
Yes.
And don't have no fear, there'll be plenty of time for questions, but we thought we'd kind of get
Oh,
through
yeah,
all
yeah,
this
yeah.
and then take all your questions. Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise we might just be covering it twice
Okay,
anyway.
so you're
Yeah.
gonna talk about.
I'm happy to. So when it comes to the applications, they are open already, but don't panic because they're open until January 8th. And we have to find a balance here between giving time for your transcripts to arrive, especially for 1Ls that wouldn't have a previous semester's transcript, and also not leaving the application deadline for too late, because we then also still have to go through the whole interview process. And you want to know about your placement before, it hits April, ideally. So we have to balance those two things a little bit. If your transcripts have not arrived by January 8th, apply and upload a blank document if you need to, put a note on it. And there's still a bit of time before the actual interview date. We know that the transcript issue, that's the timing is an issue.
I would just say, knowing how the system works, that we've been doing this for a while. I doubt seriously the transcripts will be available by that deadline. So almost everybody, all the 1Ls will have essentially no grade, no law school grades at that point when you apply. But what we do is try to hold the process up long enough to where we can have everybody's first semester, grades. So it's just gonna be that way.
Yeah, and we know that, and everyone else will have that issue, and we had that same issue last year and the year before, so we're aware of that. So the application is an online form on our website, and you can find the link here. There's also a little, obviously you can't do it from the big screen, but in front of our office, the QR code is also on the poster, so you can take it from there, or you just go through our website to the student section. The application form, the fields themselves are just some basic questions about yourself, your year, contact information, of course, and then some about your motivation as to why you're applying to the internship. The most important parts are, of course, the uploads. So the uploads will consist of 2 letters of support, your transcripts, your resume, and a writing sample. Now, this is where we get a lot of questions. So the writing sample can be something that you have written as part of your classes. You can send 3-4 pages is plenty. No need to send, 20 plus or anything. We're not going to read them anyway. And the letters of support can be academic or from your previous work experience. You can also do a mix, one academic, one from previous work experience. We get a lot of questions from one else saying that obviously you don't know your professors for that long yet. So again, we're aware of that. So, if you feel like you don't yet have that relationship with the faculty here, then it can also be a letter of reference from outside of the law school. So we know that for one else, you've only started here, obviously, in September. So.
Just at the top piece, the basic information, the online form, there is, as Margot mentioned, there is a field there where you can sort of explain why you're applying. Treat that like a cover letter, treat that like you are applying for something, a job or an internship, which is what it is. And really tell us about yourself, whatever you feel comfortable, whatever you think really conveys what your interests and your passions and your background. That's an opportunity, because the writing sample, of course, might be something you wrote here at school, or it might be something you wrote before coming to school that won't be about you probably. So that first, I want to emphasize that's like a cover letter, the basic info.
The motivation question. So yeah. So that's all the things you need to upload. We talked about the issue of the transcripts already. We expect to hold the interviews, and now we have to start being very clear. The interviews with the law school versus the interviews with the committee. And Linda can speak to the second part of the whole experience in a second. But in end of January or early February, we don't have the date yet. You know how it is blocking for hours with faculty members. It's a challenge. But we will have it in late January or early February, and that will be the interviews with the selection committee here from the Levin Center and the law school.
Right.
And
I'm sorry.
that would be the first step of the interview process. And after that first step, we do let you know relatively quickly from after the interviews, but that only leads to the next step.
So the next step is important because you need to realize that even though the Levin Center has selected you as an intern, you still have to be approved by the committee. So the committee has the right to say no. So when you're putting those materials together, they're not going to only go to the Levin Center for this first level of acceptance. They're also in the packet that we are going to send to the committee to say, this is the person we think would be a good fit for your committee. We think this person would make a good intern. And would you please consider interviewing that person? So you then have to go through an interview with the committee and be accepted by the committee. In most cases, the committee accepts the person we offer. There are exceptions, and it has happened. If you are not accepted by the committee that we initially send you to, we do try very hard to find a committee that's a better fit for you. So I think in only one instance in the 7 years we've been doing this, have we had a situation where we weren't able to place an intern. So I know that leaves it a little bit up in the air for you when you're making your summer plans, but it's the best we can do because the committees do have the final say as to whom they decide to pick for their internships. I will also add, though, that the committees that we work with have often had previous interns from Wayne State University Law School, and the record is a very positive one. So they look forward to receiving our application. So that's a very good sign. And then I should add also, once you interview with you'll work with me to get that interview with the committee. And once you get that interview with the committee, sometimes they are a little slow in getting back. So it can be, mid-March, sometimes or early March. We push them so that you can know as soon as possible, because you have to make your plans to be in DC in early May, as soon as school is out, when the internship would start. So we work together as much as we can. The other thing I didn't mention in earlier was that during your internship, myself and our Washington office director, Elise Bean, are available, and we meet with the interns 2 or 3 times during the course of the summer to check in and to answer questions, to give guidance to the extent we're able. And so you're not kind of just out there. We do have a built-in support system where you can access us at any time with any question, even about housing. But also we're there to try to help you find your way through the labyrinth of the congressional process and some of the ins and outs of oversight.
Wonderful. So it can be a bit nerve-wracking in March or so if the committee is slow to even let you know, and so we do our very best, same as with the preferences that Linda already touched on, that we do our very best to sort of match with your interest and preference, but ultimately it's the committee deciding, confirming that you have the placement. Right. So a lot of information for the time being. But we have some time for questions. If something occurs to you later, you can always get in touch later, of course. But any questions for now?
So the research memo that most of us just wrote, and most of our writing samples, I guess, that we've done through this semester have all been, 8, 10, 12 pages. Is taking an excerpt of that for the writing sample reasonable, or?
Yeah, often that's what people do, is they'll excerpt from their LRW memo. You don't have to do that, or brief or whatever it is you write. You don't have to do that, but that's a common practice. Yes.
That's related to his question. So legal writing would be primarily what you.
Well, I think legal writing is a good example. It's something that we're used to seeing, but I wouldn't say it has to be strictly a legal brief or a legal memo, because we're interested in your ability to communicate. And as Linda was describing, it's very you may during your internship write a legal memo. It's unlikely that you will be drafting a brief, but the mode of communication is not exactly strictly legal. It's kind of a hybrid of things. What we're really interested in is your ability to write well. Obviously, when you're doing this internship, time will be of the essence in some cases, so to write quickly but also well and thoroughly. So and it's a great experience to get better as you do it over the course of the summer. So just a writing sample that represents that sort of writing is what we're looking for.
But you don't want to submit a writing sample that's memoir or something like that. You want it to be where you are presenting facts in some way.
Right. That's why I emphasized at the beginning or earlier that opening cover letter is really kind of where you talk about yourself. You should spend time writing that well, because that's another sample of your writing that we are going to look at. So don't just dash that off. I would encourage you to really don't make it your life's work, but be careful, because it's a chance for you to tell us about yourself.
I'm just thinking, the career advisors and the advising office can help you guys figure out how to shorten the research memo or the trial brief that you guys are writing. So if you're like, you don't know which parts to include, you can ask.
Any other questions?
We have two people on.
Yeah.
So Jejuan or Shane, do you have questions?
Yeah, I did. For the past interns, how was the working experience with the supervisors and attorneys? Was most of the work pretty much independent, or did you guys work closely with the supervisor and attorneys? How was that experience?
I can go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bahar.
No, it's okay. You can go. I'll go after you.
So at least for my experience, we met every week. The supervisor and I met every week, and then we had our own investigation meeting. So our team also met. Depending, I believe every supervisor is different, but my supervisor was taking on 8 other investigations. So he would assign me a case. I would work closely with it with another attorney. And if I had any questions, I would reach out to him and chat with him in regards to questions. What I found helpful was drafting an agenda and submitting it to him a day before we met. That way he's aware of what questions I'm going to bring to the table. And that way there's a structured meeting because he runs on a very strict schedule. That way I can maximize my time with him.
So I kind of had a different experience than Kay because I was working for the subcommittee. It was kind of a smaller team. So I had one attorney supervisor who I worked closely with, and she would kind of assign me different research projects that she was working on generally, and she wanted me to research. I would also do bill summaries, things like that, preparations for hearings for other staffers in the office. But there was only 4 people in my office, like as opposed to Kay's office. So we had more like a tight knit. We didn't have like official sit down meetings. It was more like every day we'd see each other and like talk about the work. So it just kind of depends. It's not going to be like fully independent because you guys do have to talk about the work that you're doing, and things change very quickly when you're working in the committee. So yeah, again, it just depends on the size, but both is good. So.
Any other question from our virtual attendees? No? All
Let
good?
me add one thing about the politics, and that is whether if you're most of you have probably decided whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, at least at this stage of the game. And it actually does make a difference in terms of the committee for which you work, because it's much easier and more enjoyable to work for a member whose values you share. Congress is very personal. You're working, yes, in Congress, but there are really 535 different personalities in Congress and political views to some extent. And the parties really matter. It's not like the executive branch where you're a civil servant and you're neutral. In Congress, politics, as you've learned and heard, I'm sure, is very visible and upfront. So one thing you do want to consider is letting us know what your political interest is so that we can factor that into a choice for you. With the House going Republican right now, that's not the problem. The problem is that there are crazy Republicans right now who are going to be chairing committees that we usually used to put interns in. And for Senator Levin, who was completely fact-based, bipartisan in his operation, it would be offensive for us to place an intern in some of these offices where the chair is using oversight only for political purposes. So it takes away some of our Republican opportunities that we've had in the past. So if you are a Republican and you want to work in a Republican office, we need to work on a place where we feel that it has the values of fact-based bipartisanship. So that does eliminate some of the new some of the members now in the House, controlling the House.
Yeah, I think Linda treated that very well. I mean, that's, you know, just to reinforce, the Levin Center is a nonpartisan organization. I mean, we don't take partisan positions. We, you know, refer to ourselves as bipartisan, but really what we're doing is avoiding partisan distinctions. But the problem that Linda's describing is the behavior of some people in politics in recent years. And so, you know, we're just, we're hopeful that we can place students in Republican offices, you know, Republican committees led by Republicans. But until we see who is in those positions, it's very hard to know. And we won't know that for some time. In fact, well, probably during the period between sort of when you apply and then when we have the interviews, we may have a clearer picture of who is chairing what committees in the House. And that means which Republicans are chairing what committees. The problem is we're not going to really know how those committees are going to operate with some of these people. Now, it may we'll get lucky, and there'll be some that we've worked with in the past who are once again in charge of a committee or a subcommittee, but we're not going to know that. So as Linda said, just let us know if you have strong leanings one way or the other, or if you are or if you maybe don't, and you're sort of open to different kinds of offices that may be Republican or Democratic. Our focus, though, is always on, as I said at the beginning, following the facts where they lead and not letting politics overwhelm that process. We realize, as Linda said, politics is very much present in the Capitol, as it should be, right? It's a republic. It's a democratic republic is what we have, and so you wouldn't want politics to somehow be, you know, excluded from the process. But it's when people engage in bad faith, when people put politics before their loyalty to the institution and to the country, that we have a problem. And we will not send you, you know, into a committee that is run by somebody who is more interested in a vendetta or a conspiracy theory than, you know, than getting at facts. Okay, I think we've beaten that subject to death. Any other questions? This is not your last chance. Yes.
I was kind of curious about the logistics of like moving to DC and like getting like a place for like kind of a 3-month period. Like how was like that, was it difficult? Like what was just the process there?
Yeah, so it is kind of intimidating. What I did is I looked on Facebook. There's a lot of groups of like just DC, like Southeast thing, and there's a lot of interns in DC in the summer, as you can imagine. So like a lot of people are moving there just for like 3 months, 2 months. So it's easy to find if you want to live with like roommates. You can find sort of like group houses where like maybe 5 people live. I was able to find like sort of a smaller like studio apartments super close to the office. Some people live far away. You can commute to the office, like the public transport system is like super easy, so you don't have to worry about that. But I would recommend looking early and not to get like overwhelmed, because there's a lot of options, and it can be kind of stressful, but you will find something, because there's like thousands of people going to DC every summer, like for exactly the thing that you guys are doing. So you will find something. Kay, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Kay, did you have anything to add about housing?
I did not hear the question. I apologize. It's muffled.
The question was, what tips, or, you know, how do the logistics operate in terms of finding housing for the summer?
I think I had a different experience because I had an organization that housed students from like Muslim students, but I know other the other girl that was a part of also Levin Center, she had some sort of either a family member where she was house sitting. I know last year it was more like looking at Facebook. If you go and visit like a Georgetown law school's Facebook and reach out to some students there, maybe they also have housing and you can roommate with them. those are some opportunities that I know some students did.
We also had in previous years, if I remember right, we also had some students from the pool of our interns jointly doing a longer rent on Airbnb and just, you know, probably talking about the price a little, seeing that they were going to cover the whole summer, but that, you know, we heard that too as an option that worked for some previous interns.
In terms of dress code, is it purely formal business suits for Monday through Friday and? or is
Honestly, it varies. My supervisor told me that the dress code has kind of like gone down a bit from like super professional since like COVID. So you'll see people wearing suits. You'll also see some people just wearing like a t-shirt and like dress pants. For women, mostly flats, honestly, and just kind of like dress pants and like a nice top, not like a full suit. But it depends. Like if I had like a hearing one day, I would come in like a full suit. But if I'm just gonna be sitting in the office like writing all day, I would just wear like business casual. But I reached out to my supervisor before I came in and asked her like what I should pack, especially for girls. I feel like that's kind of hard. So feel free to like reach out if you have a question, but it's not like super professional. Yeah.
So my office was a bit different. You were expected to dress professional, and I think on Fridays it had more of like you can wear jeans, but throughout you're expected to dress professional and appropriate. I do know some people that work there showed up and they weren't dressed professional, and that was not okay. So I would not test it.
It depends, I guess.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. In that case, get in touch if you have questions later on. And we have the recording. If you hear from anyone that they wanted to come but couldn't, they can listen to all our technical failings at home. And thank you for coming, Brad.
Well, let me add one more thing, and that is if you go to our website, there are some tutorials on oversight. And if you are confused by what oversight is, still, you can go to the website and look at some of those tutorials because it'll give you a nice overview of what the work of oversight is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And don't hesitate to ask any of us. You know, we're around a lot. You know where the center is. Someone's there every single day except maybe Friday. It's sort of Monday to Thursday. Somebody's in the office. You can track us down if you want to with any questions. All right, thank you so much. It's great to see
Thank
you all.
Thanks for your interest.
Best of luck.
Sorry for all the tech issues. Thank you, Kay.
Absolutely, you're very welcome. And I shared my email in the chat. If anyone has any questions or wants to give me a call, go right
I'll
ahead.
make sure to pass it on.
Absolutely. Have a great one. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Bye, one.